Wow, we are now live, and we can read from the text, or you can just share from your heart. Just tell the audience about yourself or whatever. The text is there for later for repurposing more than anything else. You have so
Okay.
many talking points. I'm like, my God. I'm like, but I'm gonna let you just do your thing, man. This is real casual, like two guys meeting each other for the first time, and we can go up to 45 minutes or an hour or less, or whatever works. Okay,
Mhm.
you, sure, your time. You,
Me?
all you.
Oh,
I'm done talking.
where do you want me to start? Just the
Wherever you want to
yeah.
start. I love your
Okay.
shirt though. I love your T-shirt. How do I get one?
Thank you. Just send me your address. It may take a little bit of time because it's going to come from Turkey. We handmade them here. We actually found
Wow.
out that, print on demand in the United States, the quality does not come out close to what we can have. And, the guy puts it on by hand, and we tried few hundreds of washes and it still holds on. But,
Awesome.
if we're talking,
Yeah, but yeah, because we're working in that arena now. Uh, well, as a prayer on a man thing goes for my shirts and things, and thanks to my wife's creativity, she's able to get the quality up there. When I was doing it, I couldn't get it, but that's not what the show
hmm,
is about. This show is about you, Labine, American audience, hearing the great work that you do. Because when I watch some of those videos, I'm like, this guy might make me cry before it's all over.
it's interesting. Thank you for saying that because the comments that I got from some people, they saying like you should make it fun. You should talk about fun things. You should make like jokes. You it seems like you're a fun guy, but you're so serious. And the thing
But
is
serious
that,
can be fun though. Serious can be fun when you
yeah,
present it with a good heart.
Alfred, this is basically, yeah, if we talk about the mission, everything,
Mhm.
it, to me, it has a lot of meaning because I really think that we have a contract with people who protect us and allow us to do what we're doing right now, people
Mhm.
who allow us to live freely. A lot of these young men and women, they volunteer to go protect their country or, the US or whatever it may be. And the thing is that the social contract, the way I see it, is that when they come back, we promise to take care of them if anything happens to them.
Mhm.
And what I found out is that a lot of times, most countries, most societies just forget. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Mhm.
And the reason why these people are important is because if you wake up in the morning and you look at the where the sun is rising on the east side, that's where the war is. All the wars are on the east. And when you look at the sun, the way it travels, it goes from east to west. And the bad guys, they always want to go west because the Western cultures are more developed. We work harder. We have values that are, hard work, family, taking care of each other, being productive, inventing things, taking risks, starting a business. And the East, for some reason, it's stuck in past centuries where you dealt with a lot of issues by force. So
Mhm.
the war is on the East, we live in peace in the West. And in between, there are men and women who make sure that the war doesn't move west. And if we keep failing them, then at some point, I think the new generation will see what is going on and they will say, no, I'm not going to volunteer. I'm not going to join the army. I'm not going to join the navy. And then we have a really different situation on our hands. And I think that the biggest issue that is, or biggest threat that is facing Western society is apathy. If you think
Mm.
about how people just, we
Mm.
are, first of all, after COVID, we got all divided. This old
Mhm.
saying, divide and conquer.
Mhm.
We're already divided. You can stay where you are, and I can stay where I am, and we can live. We can provide services and get paid for them. Then we can order food, clothing, whatever we need. We don't really need to leave our home anymore. And what is becoming with our society is that we're becoming more and more isolated. Like I've read this report that Generation Z, they're losing the skill of having a conversation.
Mhm.
Like young
They are.
kids cannot
They are.
cannot
They are.
talk to each
Social
other.
media is like this here. Doop text, and it's that. It's driving with the phone
Right?
in front of you. All of that. Yeah. You can't
Right.
communicate. yeah, conversation. Yeah.
So, you know,
All
we
right.
started this conversation with kind of with the end, with the mission. But, you know, I know you read the biography, but basically, when I go on podcasts, like my goal, of course, is to share the mission.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I want to do is I want to, if you could pick a topic that you think will be valuable to your listeners, and I'll just tell my life story and relate it and make it into some
Okay.
kind of a
Well, that's
motivational,
cool. Well,
inspirational message.
I've got six. I've got your six of your topics that reached out to me, and we have time to touch on all six. Uh,
Oh,
I know
wow.
we do. So yeah, I just want to know. So I use your slogan. I use your quote. That quote stuck, reached out to me, but I also tied in with one of my favorite people in history, Marcus Aurelius. And you said I disappeared for 10 years, came back with a sky full of heroes. And then Marcus Aurelius, one of my favorite Roman emperors, said, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." So I'm like, wow, those two quotes connect together. So let's dive into the first part about the MIA part, and now you are here wearing an amazing T-shirt with an amazing organization, which goes back to what Marcus Aurelius said that change is nature's way of bringing to light. Okay.
Me? Okay. Well, I'm not, you know, I'm not, I would say I'm not, I'm a philosophical person answering my questions, but I immigrated to the United States back in 1992. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the things, you know, when you're first generation immigrant, it's, you don't really have a fallback because you're starting from nothing. And a lot of times you're
Mm-hmm.
starting from negative because you don't know the language. So the
Right.
first thing that all immigrants have to go through is to learn English in our
Mm-hmm.
case. And I was really fortunate that I I was a skier, and
Mm-hmm.
when I
Yeah, I
was
saw those
moving,
videos. You love snow, man. I can't. I like snow, but not like that. We have mountains in North Carolina. We have mountains in North Carolina, but I just like nah. My kids and the snow thing. But anyway, that's why I said it's serious, but we bring in the human side of it. Go ahead, though.
yeah. So you know, I when I left Ukraine, I packed my bag. I had my ski suit, my boots, and a helmet, and I wore my training suit. And I remember on the plane, I didn't even have socks.
Wow.
So yeah, when I got to the United States, I really wanted. Well, first of all, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was the product. I was the child of the Cold War, and my image of
Yeah.
the United States was that Ronald Reagan was sitting in his office and he had this red button, and at any moment he could hit that red button, and
Hmm.
it would be the end for everybody.
You see, I was on the other side of that growing up in the 70s, 80s, and I didn't understand the negativity that Ronald Reagan was putting out and the history behind it until I became an adult. Because I grew up in a small town, and where I grew up at, literally my elementary school was in an area where Camp Lejeune Marine Corps Air Station. We could look up top of the windows in those days, they have air conditioning like we do now in school, and literally little kids, and you see the bottom of the bombers coming across the school building on a test run
Hmm.
during that period of time. And then going to the
Yeah.
evening news, you heard what, but you were on the other side of the world experiencing it differently.
Yeah.
I'm here on this side of the world being taught that fear from this side. But anyway,
Exactly. So going to the States, you know, like I didn't really know much. I was 17 years old, but I knew that Lake Placid, New York, upstate New York, had Olympic Games in 1932 and 1980.
mm-hmm,
So that's where I was going. And we came to my father's house. He was here. He came to the States 4 or 5 years earlier. And he wrote letters to all these schools that had a ski program. And I got invited to the National Sports Academy in Lake Placid. We
wow,
went to visit, you know, we did some physical testing, and then I met, you know, the teachers, the principal, and for some reason they thought that they want to have me in school, and they gave me a full scholarship. So
mm,
I could, it was a boarding school. I could live there, I could eat there, I could learn English, and I
mm,
could ski as much as I wanted to. They actually gave me skis too. So
mm,
I saw a few years ago the National Sports Academy in Lake Placid sold the building, so I think they don't exist anymore. But
mm-hmm,
I'm eternally grateful. That was my first big. act of kindness towards me from the American people. And
Mm.
then my roommate was he wanted to become an English teacher. He was senior in high school, so he taught me English without a dictionary. And
Mm.
we could, yeah, yeah, we could spend there, and he could spend hours explaining a word. You know, it was a complicated word that you don't use much,
Mhm.
and I didn't have many other words, so he would explain the words to me and how to pronounce them and how to talk. So I spent that year, or actually it was because I came in the winter, so it was half a year, and I was surrounded by Americans, so my English, and it improved really fast. Then I stayed up in upstate New York for 2 more years because I was, I really wanted to try out for the Olympics. And I tell everybody that I had two dreams. One was mine and one was my father's. So my dream, yes, they were completely opposite. My father's dream was that I go to a really good business school, and my dream was that I would go to the Olympics. And you know this saying, like, be careful what you wish for?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
the
I do.
perfect life situation when Lyubim did not define exactly how he wanted it. So I applied to all the schools. I finished the 2 year college, and I applied to all different schools. And the school that I really wanted to go to was NYU because it's in Manhattan.
Mhm.
It's they have a really strong undergraduate program, and I just really loved the experience of visiting it. It was better than any other school, and it was just right next to Wall Street. It was everything is
Mhm.
happening in New York. So I get into NYU, and I still want to ski. And the only issue was that from New York to Lake Placid is 300 miles one way. So it's a
Wow.
600 mile, yeah, 600
Yeah.
mile round trip,
Wow.
and I actually figured out how to do it. So I finished my last class on Thursday afternoon. I would walk uptown. We NYU ran out of housing, and they put us up in a really nice hotel across from Penn Station. It
Mhm.
was a 4-star hotel, and we stayed there. Like my first year, we stayed the whole year in Southgate Towers.
Mhm.
So I would walk. It was about 30 blocks north. I change, and then I walk from 30th to I think it's 47th Street, where the bus station is in New York
Mhm.
City. And I would
Mhm.
catch a bus from New York to Albany, and from Albany I would get in my car and I would drive to Lake Placid.
Now that's dedication.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday I would train, and I would come back on Sunday night unless it was competition season because we'd go to Vermont, New Hampshire, sometimes as far as Maine. So
Mhm.
coming back on Sunday after competition is impossible because you completely, you spend all your energy and it's a lot of stress. So I would wait till the morning and then I would make my way back to New York City early in the morning on
Mhm.
Monday. Then I would train at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to college like everybody else. And on Thursday, I
Mhm.
would get on the bus and I would go to Lake Placid. So my commute to train for the Olympics was 600 miles every weekend for 2 years.
Mm.
Without, yeah, winter, summer, I just went
Mm.
all the time. And I was thinking about it like how I did it, and I have no idea. I was just
Mm.
doing it. And after so many years, when I share with people like what I think the most important thing is in getting big goals done, well, first of all, like deciding I'm going to do it and I really want to do it. It's like really important to me. Sometimes you don't even know why. You don't really need to know exactly why, just because you feel it inside. That feeling when you find something exciting.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
sort of
you
like
like
it's kind of like
think
this
it's a good
podcasting
idea.
thing. It's like I'm doing it
Yeah.
and I'm not getting paid for it, but I'm doing it with, I am getting paid in dividends of people and stories and promotional things, but it's I didn't know how much really missed engaging with people until I
Hmm.
went 2 or 3 years without really engaging with people and
Hmm.
engaging like with you. I'm like, dang, this dude's deep. Been away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, that exactly the deep feeling that you have inside, you have to do it. And a lot of times we start talking ourselves out of this, blah, blah. You
Hmm.
shouldn't do it.
Hmm.
What a neighbor's going to say? What is your wife going to
Hmm.
say? What are your parents going to say? So there's a lot of talk going in your head. So I'd say one thing is that once you know what you want, like you really feel that you have to do it, then you have to make the decision that you're going to do it. Once you make the decision, then you figure out how you're going to do it. It's not the other way around. A lot of times people like make all these grand plans and they have these like great business ideas or whatever it may be, thought out in like great detail over like decades. Sometimes some people spend their entire life thinking about something, but they never decided that they're going to do it. So therefore they don't do it. You find out what you love, then you decide that you're going to do it, and then you figure out what you need to do it.
Hmm.
Once you know what you need to do, you just think, what's the first step that I have to take? One
Hmm.
step. And that makes it a lot easier. You just once you make that first step, then you'll know what your next step is. And I think that one thing that, Olympians, great business people, successful people that we have in history, they have in common is that once they get going, they're just going to keep going until they get to the end goal.
Hmm.
And we never know how long it's going to take. It will take some time. It will probably not be like we thought. I don't know if you had that experience with starting podcasting.
Oh
How
yeah,
are you
this,
three? How
this
many
our
years are you?
podcast. It's funny. Our podcast is interview number 9, and of those 9 years, because we 9 years old, September 18th. I remember the day. And some people have hundreds of thousands of followers by now and are truly getting paid for it. But I've got on it, then off of it, and my freedom now is I now work for myself, so I can do as we're doing now. I can take four
Mhm.
days out of a week and bring people on the show, and have the new technology where when it's all over, it'll be audio and video, which I didn't have access to before COVID. But like you said, I never really stopped moving. I just slowed down the movement, and because it's part of who I am. It's not just I just don't do it because I want to get financial gain down the road. I want my words and the words of those I'm now engaged with to be words that's gonna be impactful on someone else. Because at the end of the day, I am a firm believer, regardless what religion, political affiliation you are. At the end of the day, we're all spiritually and emotionally connected as human beings. Stories may be different, but we all eat, breathe, sleep, and like one famous person said, there's two dates on our tombstone: the date you were born and the date you die. And what you leave in the middle is what we're doing now.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a really good way of putting it. That dash means
That
everything.
everything.
Everybody gets the same dash, but the meaning and the depth is
Hmm.
very different. And
Hmm.
one of the greatest people that ever lived on this planet is Steve Jobs.
Oh yeah,
And
I admire
yeah,
him greatly.
he invented stuff that, the iPhone, the Mac, the music, all the things, right? Yes, right.
Yeah.
But I think, Alfred, I think he also left us like messages that are really profound.
Hmm.
And because he achieved so much, like I think I really listened to him, and I think a lot of people listen to. And
Hmm.
there are two things that I really picked up from him. The first thing was that he said, I wake up every morning and I look in the mirror and I ask myself, do I love doing what I'm doing?
Hmm.
And if the answer is no for 2 days in a row, then I really start questioning if I'm doing the right thing.
Hmm.
So, a man who created one of, if maybe the most valuable company, the biggest brand in the world. I think everybody knows Apple
Hmm.
more.
Yeah.
I want my iPhone more than I want McDonald's, so it's two great
Yeah.
brands, a
Yeah.
different thing.
Yeah.
So, I really follow that advice. And there were periods in my lifetime when I had to do things when I was running financial company and, being in the financial world. I was doing stuff that I didn't really like doing, or I liked doing, but I would do a great job for people, but there was no, you don't get that feedback. He was like, "Oh, great job, Lyubim. Thanks a lot. Like, here's the check."
Hmm.
But it's not for the check, I'm not
Hmm.
doing it for the check. And then, you know, I love skiing all my life. That's one thing that stayed with me. And then I found paragliding. It's another
Hmm.
thing that the first time I went paragliding, it was with, it's just a plastic bag that hangs
Hmm.
above your
Pretty
head
much,
with
yeah.
little strings,
Yeah.
and you're hanging in a little backpack, and you don't have you're like thousands of feet above ground, and you don't have a fuselage. And like, I didn't even know the guy behind me. I just met him, and I'm thinking, I said goodbye to my dad. I thought I was gonna die. I said goodbye to my brother. And then we land, and I'm looking at my hand, like we land, right? We already landed, and I'm looking at my hands, and they're shaking. And I thought of myself as a relatively brave guy. I used to go 60 miles an hour head forward and, fly through the air. But this thing is like really scared me. So 20 minutes it stops. I'm like, I gotta learn how to do this thing. Like I really
Yeah.
gotta learn how to do this, and I really have to learn it well enough to fly other people.
Right.
Now, it took me 6 years to learn and to fly other people, but the satisfaction that I had when I got my license, that I'm a pilot and I can take a live person in the air, out of our element. There's nobody, no radio, no rescue, nothing. This is like a zero margin game. You cannot
Hmm.
really, you don't make mistakes in paragliding or you just die. That's the
Hmm.
end of that story. But one thing that I remember was that first moment when we took off, like you forget everything. Like really, you all your problems, they just fall back and they seem so small when you're thinking about death that it's just like they disappear. Nothing was important at that moment. So then I had this idea, if I take a person who went to defend his country and I scare that person to death, they will forget about sacrifice. And we're talking about the amputees. I'd say if I
Right.
take an amputee into the air, there will be a moment of time. I don't know what it would be, maybe a second, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20
Hmm.
minutes, but they will forget about it. And it actually worked exactly like that. So taking amputees, paragliding it's that reset that psychologists talk about. You need this event, that will totally reset your system.
Hmm.
And the program works that I bring them, I do it in Turkey because it's perfect. You have the sea, you have the mountains, you have wonderful people, you have great food, you have culture. Like they get lost. Like one
You're
week,
gonna make me. You're
one
gonna
week.
make me want to. You're gonna make me want to visit Turkey.
I am inviting you. If you come, I will show you what we
Oh.
do. And it would be great if you come, I will show you what we do with Wings for Heroes. Because I want people to see, we're an open source organization.
Hmm.
It's come. It would be wonderful if you can make it, then you can really share with people. Like, it's one thing that you talk about it.
Yeah, my wife's a traveler, and if she catches this, then well, I'll tell her about it anyway. She'll be like, "Once we get settled down, we might want to go visit Turkey."
Yeah.
She's part of the reason I have a passport I've never used.
You,
But
you
anyway,
still have a
this is about you. I'm
Oh,
not getting sidetracked on me today.
I'm here to talk to you. I'm not just here to talk about stuff. I'm interested what you're interested in because, I was fortunate with having such a different life experience and
Yeah,
sharing it with other people. You know your audience really well. I'm here just to add some value and share some interesting things that
yeah,
just happened to me because I was born under different stars than most people.
yeah. But the thing is, all of us are born on different stars. It's just a matter of how we learn to navigate them.
Yeah.
It's how we learn to
I see.
navigate
I'm
them.
looking at the stars behind you. So
Yeah, this is my homemade blue screen. Green screen is the word for green screen.
it's really
I
cool.
found I
Mhm.
found a way to put my podcast thing on it, and it's like, all right, that works. Uh,
It works really well.
it's always an evolution too. So when because I have my slogan is no matter what happens, I win. That's my slogan. It came about.
Wow.
Um, and I say this often. My therapist and my wife came in my life at the same time.
Is it the
Same
same
year. So
person?
if I
Is
had
it
both of
one
them,
person or two?
two people.
Okay.
So met my wife through Facebook dating, and then my therapist showed up. And along
Mhm.
that timeline, also I was working in a place where I was fairly skilled at what I did, but I had this aching to get a job back, go back performing a job I did before. And sometimes it's not good to go back, but I didn't know that until I went back. So I got made a job offer while to return to my previous place of employment,
Hmm.
and my supervisor had caught wind of me leaving because in this area people know everybody pretty much, like small towns, small cities.
Hmm.
And so we had a conversation, and I remember telling him that no matter what happens, I win. If this job offer falls through, I still have this job, so I can't lose. I have this job, or I'll get that job. I still win either way, because you're not. Because I knew he wasn't going to fire me because I was a highly performing employee. The firing
Hmm.
was on the table. The option was, if I don't get it, I'm still a winner. If I do get it, I'm
Hmm.
still a winner. So I just said,
Hmm.
no matter what happens, I win. And it became the new slogan for my podcast and my life.
That's
Not losing a
that's
place, I
really
do not
cool.
lose. Yeah. And so yeah, but anyway, I'm going back to you because you get cool stuff.
I want to talk about what you just said. I want to talk about what you just said
Okay.
because a lot of times um, we go through a life lesson, right? Whether it's, let's say, it's a business or a job, like in this
Hmm.
case, you made an example. So when you are doing that, you're learning something that you didn't know before. You're acquiring skills that you didn't have before. And then that class is over. Like,
Hmm.
you learn all you need to learn, and your everything inside you tells you, look, you got to move on. You got to
Hmm.
move on, and you got to take a next step. Like you said, I'll stay, I'll win. I'll go, I'll win. So if you stay, then maybe you need to learn something else, right? Maybe you
Hmm.
need to meet some people that you will work with in the future.
Hmm.
But a lot of times, I'm talking about the situations where the lesson is over. You have to move on, but we are hanging on to something that is familiar because we really like familiarity.
Hmm.
We function 90%, I think, or whatever. There's a huge amount of things that
Hmm.
we do during the day that we do on autopilot. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes you drive from place
Hmm.
A to place B
And you don't
for an
realize how you
hour or
got there.
two, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
who
yeah,
was driving? Like, I was thinking about stars, right? And I
yeah,
was thinking about Marcus Aurelius,
yeah,
but somebody drove that car.
yeah.
And that's the same thing with going to work. The people, what you have to do, that you'll get the paycheck on this date, all those things. But if you move forward and you start something new, you don't know. So here we are, we're hanging on to something familiar, but we're missing out on the next step. And I think that
Hmm.
life will eventually get us there. So you're saying, like, whatever happens, you win. I think it's a
Hmm.
very true statement. And
Hmm.
for a lot of people, realizing that sometimes, I need to take action and they really need to take the next step,
Hmm.
that could be a big win. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah, it could
Say
be a major
this,
win. You can
uh,
start. You can find yourself starting an organization or volunteering in a place that you are passionate about, whereas it's not a career choice in the sense of typical job or employment, but you're passionate for maybe homeless people or building community or whatever. You find yourself in that space, so you're still winning in a space you're happy that makes you happier.
exactly, exactly. And the wins are yours, personal.
Yeah.
That's one thing. If you look at my resume, this is the first time that I wrote that. I just sat down and I wrote a really long run on sentence. And if it
Wow.
wasn't for the guys and girls that I'm taking care of, the ones who
Hmm.
sacrificed a lot at war, and they're really forgotten now, I would
Hmm.
not go out. We would not have this conversation because for me,
Wow.
I don't really need to go and tell people about me.
Right.
Like if you look at my history, so let's just visit back in, so 92, I got to the United States, and then I
Hmm.
worked really hard for 20 years. Just
Hmm.
it was a long period of time, more than 10 years. No vacations. On the weekend, I allowed myself on Sunday afternoon, I would go for a walk in the park.
Wow.
All the time I was working because when you're an immigrant, first generation immigrant, nobody's helping you. You're not inheriting anything. You
Hmm.
really, you cannot stop. I say it's like you're on a treadmill and it's speeding up. So if you hit pause and you stop your legs, You know what happens? You
You
go,
fall,
you
yeah,
fall
I
on your
got you.
nose,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
I get it, I get it, I get it, I
You
get it.
fall forward, you
So,
don't fall
so,
backwards from
so
the treadmill.
so I guess that plays into that part where you said that there's a difference. You said there's a difference in resilience and survival.
Oh, yeah. And I think they come together because if you think about it, when you need to survive, you are always resilient.
Okay,
When you need to survive, you're always resilient.
always resilient.
When you don't need to survive, then you can say, maybe I'm going to do this thing, and maybe tomorrow, maybe later, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if your back is to the wall, and if we're talking about survival, you will find that resilience. And one of the things that I have to, I have to be honest with people and say, look, I have an unfair advantage if you compare me to a lot of people, because my mom was killed when I was 1 years old.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning, when everyone is being nurtured, when everyone has that always protective, loving arms, when
Mm-hmm.
moms always hold their babies, I didn't have that. So I
Mm.
had to become resilient from really early age, you
Mm.
know? And then leaving your country and moving to the States, you have to be resilient because you don't know the language, people are making fun of you, you don't understand the culture, you don't fit in. We have different cultures, east and west. I came from former Soviet Union to the United States. It's like yin yang, day
Mm.
night,
Mm.
white black, completely opposite things. So there is a period of time where you have to shape yourself and blend in. And I made that choice right away. I did not assimilate. There are a lot of communities of immigrants. They all live together. They help each other. I said, bye bye. I want to become an American.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me 20 years to realize like certain things, the importance of the U.S. Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
I, after working really hard, and being successful in my business, I got to co-author a book with Steve Forbes,
Mm.
and then when we were getting the award in Hollywood, like I was
Mm-hmm.
standing on the red carpet, and before giving the interview, I just realized if it wasn't for the First Amendment, the freedom of speech,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I would not be able to immigrate to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, I wouldn't have a chance to write or say what I needed to say because I had said a lot of things for a long period of time until I
Mm-hmm.
was noticed. It's how things work.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I was saying something that was meaningful to a lot of people. I
Mm-hmm.
started a radio show in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
and first few months it was like really nothing was happening. But then I hired the guy who was doing my um, editing in terms of like mixing it, making sure the
Mm-hmm.
sound sounds good. It took off, and then I found out, I'm in 7 different states on 11 different stations, talking
Wow.
about finances, and I have an accent, and on the radio
Mm.
it really comes across. So after that, the book comes out, and I'm standing there, I'm thinking, if it wasn't for the First Amendment, if it wasn't for the United States Constitution, I would not be here, and not on the red carpet. I would not be in this country altogether. Or let's take it even a step further and say this country would not be as wonderful as it is, because the United States
Wow.
is an amazing experiment in world history.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have this deep appreciation for founding fathers of seeing how things will turn out and should
Yeah.
turn out and making it, for the people. And I really embrace that. And I think that, when you are going anywhere, I don't know if anyone is planning going anywhere in the world, but when you go anywhere in the world, you got to put aside your familiarities and habits. You cannot go to Turkey or France or, Italy or any other countries that you want to visit and look for a hamburger. You can have hamburger at home.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Go meet
what
people
about?
and enjoy their culture, and then you come back and your life will be so much fuller and richer. And once you start traveling, and I hope it's Turkey, and I hope I will get a chance to
Yeah.
take you around because I love showing that part to the people that are just starting. You know, my life has been on the road all my life. I really like Denver, Colorado has been my one home for the longest period of time. I spent
Because
there more than a decade, and
wow.
everything else was like life. I never chose to move as like, okay, I had enough of this place. Which is next? You know, and just look at the map. It, you know, I used to work in the World Trade Center. That was
Mm-hmm.
my big dream. Working in
Mm-hmm.
studying at NYU, I wanted to work in the World Trade Center because those buildings were magnificent, and to me, they represented the results of hard work of the smartest people that ever lived on this planet. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then they build these things like that. Everybody can see them. You can see them. Just
Yeah.
everyone in the world knew what the towers meant and how they looked. You know, everybody knew the World Trade.
Yeah. I remember people often say, "Do you remember where you were at that day?" I remember exactly where I was at that day. Uh,
Where?
I was working. I had worked for three different local municipalities, and this was my first run working there for the city of High Point in North Carolina. I was sitting in a small dump truck hauling. They were digging a ditch out, and I was one of the haul of people to haul the dirt off to the landfill. And the truck only had an AM radio. This was before cell phones. This was like 2000, 2001.
Yeah,
And it came across the radio. And I had seen the World Trade Center's towers on TV, of course, and all that time period, but never been to New York and actually seen them. So I knew I was familiar with what they were. And they announced that when the news stopped, everything stopped on the AM station, and they started talking on and 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 on. I stopped and, and got out of the truck and went to my work crew and told them what was happening. The crew I was working with what was happening. And there was so much disbelief. Then the shift ended. I got home, and that was all that was on TV. Cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle. They had an old fashioned big box computer when it was dial up.
yeah.
And
Hey, well,
that was that was a cycle for a person who never got an opportunity to see those buildings, to see the hustle and bustle. But I knew what it meant based off the stories I've been told in Hollywood and all the fun things, being in a rural community thing like I grew up in. But that's where I was at that day, behind the steering wheel, AM FM radio, and it was announced. I actually wrote a poem, uh, and if I can recall where it's at, I would think I would like to pause for a moment here, not, and come back and see can I find it. But no, if I knew it was going this way, I'd have brought my book in. But I can find it. Yeah, I'll find it up here. And that's where I was at that day. And this is two guys talking, so we can talk about whatever, however we
so
want to talk.
while you're looking for the book,
No, no, actually, I'm gonna pull
you
it
know,
up because
let
I'm
me.
gonna I
Oh,
got a
okay.
Google document for it, so I'm gonna pull it up in a
Uh-huh.
document while you continue speaking, sir. Because you just got me all today. I'm like, wow. Continue on.
See, it's interesting. It's interesting how we remember um, those emotionally impactful moments of our life forever, like it was yesterday. And it doesn't take much for us to go back there. And what that's one
Mhm,
of the things that people don't understand about veterans is that when they go out and they are in a combat situation, that for them to remember what it was, it just takes one little
mhm.
sound or one little smell or just one thought can just completely bring it back.
Yeah, you
But
just hit me. You just hit me with one. You just did it to me, sir. You just like, oh, good, but continue. I'm listening. We're listening. The audience is here. I'm watching as people hit up. Come on, see numbers fluctuate. But go on. It's just,
so basically, you know, that day is was the beginning of a different journey for a lot of people, and unfortunately, it you know it ended a lot of lives. Over three
yeah, it
thousand
did.
people didn't come home that day. But I was running late for work, and I was downstairs. So when actually our building got hit first, we were in one World Trade Center. It's not the one. There's two World Trade Center had the antenna on top. It's
Right.
the South Tower and we were the North Tower. And our
Wow.
building got hit first. And when I was downstairs, I looked up. It looked like just a little gray smoke that burned overnight. But when the
Hmm.
plane hit the second one, it flew from the south, and I was on the north side where the fireball came out. And if you're
Wow.
standing one block away, the impact was so hard that it shook everything. And
Mm.
one of the things that I was always remember it was how the firemen and the police and emergency teams of
Hmm.
medics how they were rushing in. It was just a crowd of people running inside of the World Trade Center just to save other people. So they were running in faster than people were running out.
Wow.
And after that day, I
You were
waited.
there. You
New
were
York,
there. You were
I was
there.
downstairs. Yeah, I was
Wow.
downstairs. I didn't go up. Of course, I didn't go up because it was a little bit late. I decided to get up one stop early to get some coffee.
Wow.
And that was the big difference. And, after a few days, the roads opened up because the National Guard moved in. It looked like a war zone.
Hmm.
You had a lot of people riding in trucks with machine guns and a lot
Mm.
of helicopters flying because they were looking for something. They were making sure that there was nothing else that was coming. They were serious. But when they opened up the roads, I knew that there was nothing left for me in New York. I am a mountain and outdoor person, and I was in New York because, like I told you, we had two dreams. One was mine and one was my father's. So I finished business school, I get a really good job, and I'm working in Manhattan. But then, there's no buildings. There are no buildings, so there's nothing to go to. And I packed up my car and I went to
Mm.
California. It wasn't my place. I went to Colorado. It was my place. But after 6 months, I got an offer from a firm in Texas, and I spent 1 year working in Austin, Texas. But it never snows there.
Oh, so
Alfred,
it's so hot there. It
Austin,
is so
yeah,
hot
it's
there.
hot. So I felt like a jellyfish on the beach every day. At night in the winter, it's like 88 degrees, and you're looking at the thermometer, the temperature is not going down, and humidity seems like it's always going up, even when it's raining. So hot and humid. And then I got an
Yeah.
offer, and I started working for American Express in Denver, and I spent more than 11 years working in Denver. But while I was moving, so we go from New York to California, California to Colorado, Colorado to Texas, I was classified as a displaced person. And the Red Cross, yeah, the Red Cross stepped in, the American Red Cross stepped in, and they sent me a check for $15,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and they never asked for anything. And I just wanted, every time I say something about the Red Cross, I just have this endless gratitude because really, there were a lot of people who needed help. And then out
Hmm.
of nowhere, they just sent me that check. And
Wow.
fast forward till now, this winter, I went to see how different countries keep the promise to people who go and protect them from the bad guys,
Hmm.
the
Right.
people who serve our countries
The
in the armed
wings
forces.
for heroes. Those people. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
really
true.
needed to know what's going on in the world. When you're on a mission, you cannot really rely on anybody's information. So I went to
Right.
France, I went to Switzerland, then I crossed into the United States, several states, and then I even and made it to Pearl Harbor. And out of all places, the only place that really keeps the memory, keeps the promise is the Pearl Harbor. I don't know if you had a chance to go there, but it's an
We
amazing
we
place.
we we were in Hawaii, but did not have a chance to go to Pearl Harbor. But we were on a plane with we were on the plane as I discovered through conversation with this group of adults, former Marines, who had all these teenagers that they were taking there to the base there for like a week or so of activities and engagements during the Pearl Harbor celebration period. Around the time people we were there, and I was just what caught my attention was these kids were so respectful and it was like they're in some type of mentorship with the United States Marine Corps, and they were going to
Mhm.
visit during that celebratory period last year.
Wow.
So I'm like,
And it's,
wow.
it's an amazing place because they preserve the whole. We've seen the movies, right? So
Hmm.
you remember in the movies, all these planes are coming
Right.
into this little spot. But when you're standing at that harbor, first of all, like when you walk in, like to the right, there's USS Bowfin. Like you can go
Hmm.
on a submarine.
Right.
And
Wow.
if you're lucky enough, and if you're going, you need to make a reservation to go see USS Arizona. And
Hmm.
USS Arizona was the ship that Japanese sunk, and 1,177 American sailors, they perished on that night. So the
Wow.
USS Arizona is a memorial. They built a memorial above, but the ship is underneath. They
Wow.
never raised the ship, yes. And the interesting thing is that there are few guys who survived, but they all chose that after their life ended, they chose to go back. So they get put in this little box. I think they get cremated and I saw the pictures. They get put in this little box and the divers go down. And what the divers said that when they put the box next to the ship, like something would take the box. They
Wow.
said they were, it's for everybody. And the last person died. So they're all together, together as
Together now.
in
Wow.
one place and they're together in heaven, all of them. But
Mm.
once you live, of course, the United States joined the war after USS Arizona was sunk.
Right.
But once you exiting the USS Arizona, you're looking at the USS Missouri. That's where Japan surrendered.
Right.
And that is the perfect like analogy of how close war and peace are. We are always this
That close.
close. And in the middle, there are guys and girls like this.
Right.
The guy in the red shorts, he has both legs, but he's deaf on one ear. He had a hand grenade explode next to him, and
Wow.
they had to stitch his ear. And I think the people that you cannot see that they sacrificed and they're suffering, they're the worst situation. Because you look at him, he had a plastic surgery. If he wears sunglasses,
Hmm.
he's normal,
Hmm.
but he cannot hear on one side. And I get a call from a manager. They were here for session. Like now, our sessions are 10 days. So last session was April 9 to 19. And I get a call from the hotel, and the manager says, Lyubim, can you please come? Because like there is some shouting going on with your guests. So I go to the hotel and they say, what's going on? He said, well, somebody's shouting. I went to the door and I heard, and I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I'll make sure I'll call them. I'll let them know. And I turn around. I'm walking for the front desk, and then I realize that he's deaf. So I
Hmm.
turn around and I go to the administrator, and I said, look, I forgot to tell you, he cannot hear. So if you're standing on his right side, you have to shout that his left ear picks it up because the right one has zero hearing. And when I explained it to the administrator, he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me before? And the thing is that, like, I didn't even think, or now I know, it was the first deaf veteran or deaf on one ear veteran that I dealt with. So every time I'm talking to these guys and we're moving along, I'm discovering new things that they need.
Wow.
So one guy, imagine if you have only one leg, the pressure on this leg is all the time. It's
Hmm.
100% of the time. And that leg, the muscles are getting super strong. They're stronger than normal. However, if you don't treat them in specific way, if you stand on them, they start shrinking. And when the muscles in your leg are shrinking, they can press on your sciatic nerve, which is the longest nerve that runs from.
Hmm.
So I take this guy during the session and just says, come on, let's go to my physical therapy together. We're gonna do physical therapy together because I have little shoulder issues I need to work on. And he has only one leg. So my therapist is like, yeah, I'd love to see him. Bring him in. I bring him in. She looks at his leg and says, oh my God, look at his leg. I said, what? She says, well, his muscles are so short that one wrong move, he can become paralyzed. And I
Mm.
was thinking, yeah, 23-year-olds are kids. He's a 23-year-old kid. He turned 20 on February 9, and February 22, the full-scale invasion started. He didn't have to go. The draft age is 25.
Right.
He volunteered and he's left his leg there. you know.
Mm.
So now he has only one leg, and it really needs urgent attention. And I told him it was in April. I said, "Look, man, you're coming back in May for 1 month." And I had no idea how I was going to pay for it. It was like 3 days before. I was like, we're getting close to the end of the month of May. And I'm saying, "You're coming, you're coming, you're coming." And the last moment I realized, look, I ran a company, a failing company, a nationwide company in Ukraine for, more than 6 years. No paycheck, because they were in such bad situation that I knew that if I take my paycheck, we will not survive. I had no roadmap. I didn't have any help. I'm the only American there, and it's like completely isolated, dealing with issues all the time. But I built a team. I found the best people. I taught them how to do their work, and I gave them a position that they're still holding to this day. So
Mm.
I called the guy who was the highest up, and I said, "Look, uh, I have to bring this guy here because if I fail my promise to him, then this mission means absolutely nothing. It's great to take them and entertain them, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
different thing when we're talking about a 23-year-old maybe becoming paralyzed. It would be the end of it. Like psychologically, I don't know how he'll get over it." And they raised money in one day, and he came on May 29th. He started his physical therapy. He's here right now. And before coming here, right now in Turkey is one out of two holidays. They have only two holidays a year.
Wow. Okay.
The holidays right now. So our physical therapist is off, but he has to do his physical therapy. So before coming on the show, I was holding, rubber bands,
Mm-hmm.
and the amputated leg, it needs exercising. So I was exercising that leg. And I'm saying, like, I spent my whole life working in finance. I met billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a best-selling author. None of my clients lost money in 2008, 2009 financial
Mm-hmm.
crisis. I saved a nationwide company. It's blah, 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 right?
All right.
But one of my biggest accomplishments is getting this guy here. And the reason I'm showing you this card is because I printed it in April, and the card says that his name is Balik. He says he must begin a 30-day physical therapy program in May of 2025 to save his only leg. This is not charity. This is a second chance, not just for them, but for all of us. You are not holding a card. You are holding a promise that was kept. Alfred, I printed this in April and I said, this is the promise that was kept.
Kept.
So one of the things that really I wanted to share with the audience, I think this may change lives for a lot of people for the better. When you decide you're going to do something, it's done.
Mm.
And if you're really brave, you put it on the card because this is history. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I know a lot of people, you have ideas right now and dreams and things that you want to accomplish, create, build, invent. It doesn't exist yet. But once you decide and you say, it's done, then the whole universe it's going to help you.
Happy. Uh, You're gonna be the second person if you're interested in coming back on my show. I thought so. In less than a week, I've had two people. You're the second
Oh,
one I'm asking to come back.
thank you,
uh,
sir.
it'll be probably September if you're available in September. Life is still going on, and all the chaos and foolishness we're dealing with here in this country. Um, but I would love to get you back on in September. Uh, if you are open to doing so, the
Yeah,
calendar
of
is
course I'll
open.
come back. I am
Yeah, the
really
cal.
enjoying this. We just met. I know the first meeting is the most difficult one
Well,
because
no,
you're like, what?
my mother said my mother who's deceased never met a stranger, and part of that is who I am and her legacy. I don't meet strangers. I just meet people that we haven't got to share with yet. Uh,
Okay,
so but in this case here, there's so many more layers and so many more stories tied in with what you got to say and the impact of your an organization you founded. And it's not about you or I. It's really about the processes,
then.
procedures, and the gift of gab or whatever it is that this divine creator has endowed each one of us with on this journey to the self-discovery for someone else most. Because if you think about it, somebody was there for us too. Someone guided us along the way. Um, you, in your story, did not get a chance to know your mother. Mine died at the age of 50 something. I'm 62. So I've already outlived her. And I
Mhm.
carry on the better parts of her legacy, I will say.
Mhm.
Um, and I am going to pull that one thing up and I'm going to go back to you. It's not the poem I was looking for, but it does speak volumes to where we're at. And because I think you're the guy who has something to say about this. So just bear with me. It's one of my earlier works. It's entitled "We Are We." It's not actually in my, may not be in my book. I won't know if I got the book in here. This is an old manuscript I'm reading it from. So,
Okay.
but it says the name of the poem is "We Are We." It says, "I am your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. I am you. You are me. We are we, children of a lesser or greater God. We are the same, you and I, living separate, joined lives. We both bleed red, die, and return to Mother's Earth womb. I am you. You are me. We are we. Well, at least until heritage taught us love and hate, taught us to love and hate each other in the names of religion, race, political affiliation, sexual orientation. Subtly brainwashed to believe living isn't about the we. Living is about the I, as if the we isn't the same as you as us. Lies craftily designed to kill the we and the I of us.
It's a
And
beautiful poem. I hope it's in your book because it's amazing.
yeah, that's one of them like that in my book. But this point here is what you're saying, really. The those who have chosen to sacrifice a lot, those who have lost, those who you probably wish you could be of assistance to, they're not here. The Pearl Harbor memorial, the thing that I really, as one who feels a strong connection for whatever reason, to those who have served did not get a chance to visit, but you brought it to life with me. You reawakened the memory of 9/11 where I was at doing a task, and I was friends of a individual, still is, who just lost a son. I became
I'm
friends
sorry.
up through our sons. Yeah, he died of stage 4 cancer. My oldest son will be 39. I think DJ would have been, he's either what turned 39, he would have been 39. But his father, no, it wasn't him, excuse me, that was another father. Let me backtrack. It wasn't DJ. Please forgive me, Darnell. Bring your son into this video. There's another father who we were friends with through the marching, as a marching band parent, who was in the military, who had answered the call to go back to New York, where his ship was at when 9/11 happened. So I had two connections back then, in a sense. Eventually, yeah, I got to know if I remember correctly, because it's been so long ago, and people will say, "Well, Alfred, you remember
I
stuff,"
know. Yeah.
but you get timelines mixed up with people, and I've known a lot of people,
Exactly.
but
I
I
know.
do
I
know,
noticed that. Yeah.
yeah, but I do know that I've been around. I was around the individual who had to go
But
back.
you remember where you were. You remember
Yeah,
exactly what you were doing,
that
and you
part I can.
remember who
Yeah,
people around you. You remember the weather.
yeah,
You know,
that
it was
part.
raining or sunny.
Yeah, that part I cannot
Who
forget.
was there? Yes.
That part I cannot forget because number one, that dump truck had no air conditioning. It only had AM and radio, AM and radio, and that just interrupted the whole day, whole life experience. But back to you, sir. As we wrap this up, uh, I want to revisit that thing you said. So let me pull it back up real quick. It was in your bio because this ties in, I think, with the experience of the veteran who was deaf and others. Please share with everyone who will catch this now or later what you said about the difference in resilience and survival, because that ties in directly to living a fuller life.
Mhm. I said that. when you're dealing with survivor, you're always resilient
Mhm.
because our life is the most important thing that we have. And I think
Mhm.
the next important is the life of a person who is next to you.
Mhm.
And I think that in the Western culture, I'm going to use the word spoiled, okay, because I
Mhm.
cannot think of a better word. We've been spoiled and are so used to the comforts of our daily life that other senses that we have, they are dying off. And our
Mm.
potentials, and one of our potentials is to be resilient. And resilient, it means like, I'm just going to keep going.
Mhm.
There's nothing to it. It says resilience is that you are going to do whatever it takes to get to your goal or your dream or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
So when you meet people who, there's some disabilities that happen because of an accident, but there are some disabilities that happen because somebody made a choice.
Mhm.
And that choice requires so much bravery. I think our society and our culture really undermines and understates how brave those people are. I'm not like that. After
Mhm.
September 11th happened, I was really close joining the military and going to Afghanistan. I didn't go. And I
Mhm.
can give you a million reasons, and everybody would say, okay, of course, how could you go, right? You're dealing with blah, blah, blah. But they actually went, and there's some famous people who had a lot to lose, the football players and
Mhm.
a lot of athletes, a lot of great athletes in the States went. A lot of people, a lot of kids of wealthy parents went. And a lot of them didn't come back, and a lot of them came back injured. And when they come back injured, the ones who actually make the choice that it's not going to break them, I'll tell you when I decided that I'm doing this, that I'm not keeping it in my head anymore.
Mhm.
I was watching one of these Instagram stories and I saw a teenage girl who lost her leg like a few months ago. She limps out on her prosthetic leg in the middle of the stadium, full packed stadium of people. And she says, look, they can come and they can take part of our country. They can even take part of my body, but they can never break me. And the state Yes, that's how the stadium went just wild. And I'm looking at it, for girls, I'm not a girl, right?
Mhm.
But I imagine, like, like you know that a lot of girls, like, if they have some, like, a pimple or whatever, to them, it's the end of the
Right.
world,
Right.
right? Some little blemish can, like, completely ruin their life. Here, she lost her leg. And she's standing in front of everybody saying, you cannot break me.
Mhm.
You can kill me, but you cannot break me. And I said, I am done waiting for the right time. The right time is now. It doesn't matter what my life situation is, it's now. And it was 2 years ago, and I'm still trucking along.
On that note, we'll close this out. Um, there's another topic I want to get into, but I'm gonna save it for the next show when you come back in September. Um, when you go in and do the little technical thing and pick a date, um, and this will give us time to dig into more, which is why purpose is more powerful than a second chance, but not today. Um, and so, Labine, I appreciate you having you on. This has been another episode of Life is About More Than Living. All of Labine's contact information is there. Uh, go and do as your heart leads you. I will never ask anyone to for money or to support any organization financially. But if you go to his website, wings4heroes.org, and you feel the need, then do so. Uh, veterans, as the media is beginning to finally highlight here in America, I wish they had wished it sooner. Veterans are forgotten people. They've given so much, and to have an organization that does what it can to support. Yes, there's plenty of organizations out there, but this one I think is unique. And if you want to understand why, watch the beginning of this live stream on replay. It will tell you why it's unique. He tells you why it's unique. I'm not going to go into why I believe it's unique. I'm going to let you discover that in the stories that were shared today. my audience, my listeners, my followers, my subscribers. And Labine, I hope you have a successful, blessed day. Looking forward to getting that request for September. Um, and we have a few words after I close this out off screen. But thank you, sir.
Thank you
Have a
for
blessed
having me,
day.
and
Yes,
I hope the audience heard something that would really inspire them.
well, oh, you did. You did so much. I'm gonna close this out if I remember how to do it correctly, and we're gonna talk off screen.
Okay, thank you, Alfred. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.